Hey everybody, this is Mark from the Geek Church, and I'm not going to make this intro long. It's been a while since I've done an episode of my show, and this is the beginning of a 6-part show where I'm going to be rating all the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes. So there's 36 in all, which means I'm going to rate 6 episodes each episode. That's 6. Well, there's not a third 6, but you get what I mean. So I'll start with the worst, numbers 36 through 31. Number 36, Treehouse of Horror 22. Now, it's nice that The Simpsons usually doesn't have a really terrible one, but this one, it was not really well done at all. The opening has, like, Marge take the kids' candy away and then have Homer give it to the troops or something like that. And honestly, it makes Marge look like a meanie, really. And then we get to this one. The Diving Bell one. It's all about farts. Now here's the thing, I don't like fart humor. Now it's probably because when I was a kid, I probably farted a lot because I was teased for that. And maybe that's because this is not a biased review or this is not an unbiased review, but this whole thing just delves into this. And then it ends with a Spider-Man parody, and it just does not work. It is probably easily the worst of the Simpsons sketches. And then we get to this one, Down D for Diddley. And this is the one where Ned is like Dexter, which honestly, that's kind of a good concept. And the fact that Homer is like playing God literally to make Ned do this is kind of a funny yet sick kind of concept here. What I really hate about this is at the end of it where apparently God just does not like that Homer's imitating him, and I actually kind of like that he gets revenge, but I don't like what happens afterwards. It's almost like the devil's in charge of God is what it's implying, and I just didn't like that at all. Then of course there's In the Navi, the Avatar parody. This is the one I didn't like because, and I even brought this up, Bart is the main character here. This really should have been Homer. And I think it really would have worked with Homer being the main character because he could have married a Marge alien and then they could have had kids. But in here, Bart, and we get to see Bart get it on with an alien, or we don't get to see it, but it's implied that he has it, and it's kind of like, I don't want to think about that, okay? Don't do that. The saving grace here is at the ending battle, they really went all out on the effects, and I have to say that when the Simpsons commits to a bit, they commit to it sometimes. And actually they commit to it pretty much all the time. And the effects here, it must have taken so much time to do, but unless it's a really high quality product, it's not really worth it. And I have to say Treehouse of Horror 22 is the worst one, but hey, it's not that bad, really. Okay, maybe it is bad. Number 35, Treehouse of Horror 28. Now, I remember why this one is so low, but I'm going to get to that when that shows up. This intro with them as 3D characters, I'm not sure if this is the first time this type of 3D animation was used, but honestly, they tend to pull it off the shelf in the Halloween episodes, and I'm not really certain whether it works to their advantage. The Exorcist is, of course, is obviously what it's a parody of. Here's the thing, 2 Treehouse of Horror later, they actually kind of did the same thing where Maggie was possessed, only they satirized The Omen rather than The Exorcist. So this one doesn't really... This is one of those sketches that just kind of... It starts out with something and then it doesn't really end very well. And then, of course, Coralisa. Again, animation style is stepped up. And I think I don't remember how I described this, but I remember describing it as stop motion or something, and it's like maybe it might be computer animated. It kind of does a good job on the source material. I actually just watched this Coraline yesterday, and I think it follows the plot line pretty well. I don't remember what I didn't. Then at the end it doesn't really stick to the landing, because I've seen them integrate 3D animation with 2D animation before, most recently with Denim. But this one, they just kind of didn't do that. They just kind of brought the 3D characters into 2D, which I kind of felt sort of didn't really stick to the landing on this, which is kind of strange. Then we get to Homer. And this is where Lisa actually has to give a warning on this. And yes, This is one where essentially they probably pitched it like this. Homer eats himself. And I actually did this at the beginning of a Treehouse of Horror a while ago, where he eats himself and goes like, why didn't somebody tell me I'm so delicious? This time they really get into the darkness of this. And man, it just goes super, super dark. And this Treehouse of Horror it goes dark sometimes, but not as dark as this. And it is just not fun to watch. And it was just like, I don't even know how to even describe how this is beyond the barriers of anything, really. I just could not get into this. I could barely even finish this episode, but I did because, well, I'm supposed to. Anyway, yeah, that's that. Number 34, Treehouse of Horror 17. Now, I know I couldn't help but leak my disdain for this particular episode when I finally did the TikTok/YouTube short of it. The opening with the Crypt Keeper is interesting, but when it gets to the Married to the Blob episode, yeah, this is where it really fails for me and not a good strong start. Because I just get the feeling like all I could think about was like, is this really the best you could do? There was just something about this that just made me go like in the writer's room, did somebody actually say, hey, how about a sketch where Homer gets super fat and eats everything, and even people? And yeah, don't get me wrong, I like the barbecue sauce fight gag. I thought that was pretty funny, but for the most part, I have to admit, the ending of this thing, especially with Dr. Phil, but the fact that Homer eats homeless people, I did not like that at all. Something about that just made me think, like, if you're gonna go with social commentary as far as that goes, I think that maybe you can have an edge for that. The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror has done dark humor as well. In fact, this last sketch in this thing, which I'll get to, kind of is addressing this thing. Now, this middle thing with the golem, actually, I really love that concept for an episode. This idea of bringing something to life. But this really couldn't go anywhere, and it doesn't really try to go anywhere. I think the golem needs a wife, and they make a Fran Drescher, like, Play-Doh thing. And I'm going like, and it's funny because Fran Drescher, yeah, what are you trying to do with this? I just kind of felt like this is a problem with a lot of Treehouse of Horror sketches. They start out very strong, but then they kind of don't really end anywhere. And this happens with this one, The Day the Earth Looks Stupid. I mean, it really commits to this bit of a 30s Springfield with sepia tones and everything. And it even involves a real alien invasion mixed with the Orson Welles' famous botched radio Mars broadcasts. But there's just something about this that ends with it being social commentary, with this idea of these two aliens commenting on this. And it feels like they are clearly commenting on the war in Iraq. And there's even this very final shot here that I went like, okay, I'm not laughing at all. And I don't mind if I'm not laughing at the end of a Simpsons episode or any show. But I'm kind of going like, it almost works, but not quite. Something's missing, and I'm not sure what it was. Yeah. And number 33, Treehouse of Horror 9. This is probably where we're going to get to single-digit Simpsons or Treehouse of Horror episodes, and some of them are probably the best. In this case, I have to admit, this one rates so low simply because there's one sketch at the end that I thought was really bad, and the first one is sadly, it's been done before. I did mention the fact that Hell to Pay is a title of a Amazing Stories episode. And here's the thing, I don't know if they were aware that they were taking the story, or but here's the thing, if you're going to do that, give it a different title. Now I have to admit there are some differentiations between the Amazing Stories episode and this particular one. And if you never watched Amazing Stories, man, that actually had some really good anthology stories. It's really a Keen's overlooked series for the most part. But yeah, this one kind of, I do have to admit, I admire when Homer gets possessed by a snake. I do admire the animation as far as that goes and as far as where that could go. But yeah, in the end, I just kind of don't really think it plays out very well. Also, the capital punishment, that electric chair done on like live TV, dang, man. And the Terror of Tiny Toon, I have to admit, is something that I really have to think is pretty creative as far as like, this is one of the reasons why I like watching Treehouse of Horror, is because oftentimes they'll have an interesting setup, which in this case is Bart and Lisa go into the actual world of Itchy and Scratchy. And then from there, you can just create all kinds of really funny comic antics, almost like Who Framed Roger Rabbit in a way. But there really isn't much that they could do with this. And I have to admit, there's a major flaw in this when Marge takes out the batteries for the remote. Yeah, that kind of television set, you didn't need a remote to operate it. You could just do it with your hands. And yeah, there's that whole Regis and Kathy Lee parody. They're just... I really didn't like it when this happens. I've criticized this before, and you'll hear it again on how I just don't like it when there's a celebrity on there playing itself. Then we get to Starship Poopers. Oh gosh, this is bad. The fact that Maggie is an alien, and that Marge apparently had an affair with an alien or something like that, and the way they set that up isn't very funny at all, and it doesn't really work at all. I really have to say that this story just doesn't work here. And then it ends with the Jerry Springer thing that I just thought, oh, this is even worse. And it's kind of like, I just did not like this episode. I just thought, this is not funny. It's just not anything really. So yeah, it rates low. Number 32 is Treehouse of Horror 14. Now this is one that just starts out to be just so violent. I don't even know why it goes this direction. And then we get to, let's see, what is that? Reaper Madness? And this is the one where Homer becomes Death. Now, you think this would be a very funny premise, and I have to admit, the idea of Homer becoming Death, I actually think I probably would have approved of this as well. Now, I mentioned On a Pale Horse. This is a book that isn't really a modern classic. It's one I read when I was in high school that, honestly, I'm surprised someone hasn't adapted yet. So this is about as close as an adaptation we'll ever see of that. There really isn't much. I get the feeling like this was pitched as Homer becomes Death, and then no one knew what to do with it from there. And it shows. There isn't really much that even happens after Homer becomes Death. Now this one, Frankenstein, I think is one of the worst sketches I've ever seen on one of these things. There's not really much to it. It's just an excuse to have a celebrity guest star. In this case, Jerry Lewis, which I didn't even know he was even alive at the time this is done, and I'm pretty sure he's probably not now, maybe. But yeah, since Jerry Lewis's character from the original Nutty Professor was the inspiration for Professor Frink, it just made sense to have him play his own father. And yeah, and all he does is just yank out people's organs. It's gross. And then this particular one had the most potential. Stop the World, I Want to Goof Off. The idea of essentially stopping time. That's actually really interesting. And I kind of mentioned that there was a Futurama episode, one of the final finales, that actually kind of dealt with this thing. And that was done pretty well. I have to admit, the direction they kind of went with this one felt rather directionless. I didn't really feel like there was anything on this particular Simpsons Treehouse of Horror short that hasn't really been done in anything else that has been tried on this. I do kind of like the idea that they couldn't fix the watch and they were aging in the null time era, which is also kind of interesting, but oh yeah, and the fact they frame someone else for the crimes they've been doing doesn't make any sense, I think, is kind of the issue I had with this. So yeah, and then I think at the end they just kind of did this thing with hula hoops or something like that. So yeah, not very overwhelming. Number 31, Treehouse of Horror 10. And I actually think this one starts out with a very strong story with I Know What You Diddly Diddly Did, because most of the jokes in that actually really work. I was pretty surprised on this. And I think the true test of a Simpsons sketch is whether the jokes land. And in this case, I think they did is the issue of that. The problem is this is one of those things, and I've discussed this before, a lot of these Treehouse of Horror sketches start out with a very good premise, but then they fall flat somewhere. And I think Treehouse of Horror works best when the thing that they're parodying isn't necessarily a thing, but rather a story that maybe they've made up, or might be based on something, but it's not exactly. In this case, they actually had to go with I Know What You Did Last Summer, which does not feature a werewolf, which is pretty much how they ended this, which I kind of went like, I didn't really know. Now, the second sketch, I have to admit, is the worst of them, and probably one of the worst Treehouse of Horror overall, because it involves a special guest star. The fact that it's called Desperately Seeking Xena, and Lucy Lawless is playing herself in this thing, and Xena, I guess, is just not really well done. Plus, the fact that they even started out very strong, this idea that Bart and Lisa get superpowers, I don't think it's ever been really done in a Treehouse of Horror thing before, and I don't know, I'm trying to think, actually, I'm sure they've done other ones that have similar premises like that, but I feel like they really should have satirized those kind of campy cartoons from the 60s or something like that, which looks like what they were going for, but when they introduce Xena, it falls flat. Something about that just doesn't work. Then we get to the Y2K thing, which was pretty smart actually just to do that, because 1999, you just were doing that. A lot of animated shows were doing something like this. Family Guy had one, I think, King of the Hill did this as well. And yeah, it does kind of feel like it's all the crazy stuff that we thought was going to happen in Y2K just made manifest here. What I don't really like is kind of the ending with the spaceship and how Bart and Lisa have to, and a lot of people have commented on this, that the idea of Bart and Lisa essentially jettisoning themselves out into space is a pretty dark ending, just for that. And for that, I'm going to have to give it not a high score, because that's not a funny joke.